All right, for segment 1 today, we are going to introduce you to Hyperborea. This is a game that Heathen Doug and I covered second edition of as the first game that we talked about when we started up RPG Digest. And now, finally, we're getting to the third edition of the game. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple of things about this. We are not going to compare this to second edition. Why? Because while I have run a couple of one-shots of second edition, I didn't dive into second edition to the point where I'm going to be able to spot every change. So we're just going to take this game on its own and see what kind of OSR, Dungeons and Dragons type of game this is. And scroll down. There we go. Had to find that. We believe that role-playing games should take place in fantastic worlds. The focus of the game should be on role-playing and having a good time. The core values of #RPGate and any good tabletop group are escapism, not representation, entertainment over activism, and natural, organic inclusion, not forced diversity. The charity we support is the Wounded Warrior Project, a national nonpartisan organization whose mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors. Please refer to the description below for the link to where you can make your hopefully tax-deductible donation. And I'm not even going to read this off because this week, this is the normal schedule, but this week it's all FUBAR because of people and Easter and whatever else. So that's the normal stream schedule. We're just going to leave it at that unless you want to interject something.
No, it's fine.
Okay. And of course, hey, we're a live stream podcast discussion, not a concise step-by-step tutorial. We may deviate off topic, go on tangents, and talk to our live stream viewers. So enjoy anyway. There we go. And subscribe.
Share.
Share. All right, so a couple things that I want to get out of the way first. Let me present this. I'm going to do it by screen because I've got a few things to present. We are going to talk in this introduction today. We're going to go through just the quick introduction of what is shown here in the Hyperborea book. But I also want to point out real quickly that there's a second book, a completely other book. A lot of games don't do this anymore for just the referee. And that's right, the game master, dungeon master, whatever for Hyperborea is called the referee. This book is awesome. Okay, it's got bestiary. It's also a monster manual. It's got beasts in it. It's got suggestions on how to do things. It talks about the world, and it's got a bunch of appendices on how to deal with the setting as a whole. Now,
Cool.
And for full disclosure, I love the system. I'm not a fan of the setting. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. That doesn't mean you should go look elsewhere. If you know old school Dungeons and Dragons, you know how to treat this game. You know what to do with the setting. I'm just not a fan of part of Earth floating around Saturn. Okay, because that's what it is. If that doesn't bother you, you're already ready to go. It's definitely a sword and sorcery type game. One other thing there you go. There is the Atlas. Here, I'll show you. There it's floating around Saturn.
Yay!
How
did that happen? I don't know.
Well, the world blew up. Well, the sun's a red giant at this point. This is billions of years in the future. The sun's a red giant, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, this atlas, it tells you the different landscapes, we'll say, because in here it'll describe them, and here you're going to actually know where they're located on the map. If you want to say, you know what? I love the rules. I love the character classes, because that's one of the things I really do love about the game of character classes, and we'll get to that next week. But I want to do Dungeons and Dragons. I want dwarves and elves. Well, if you have any experience whatsoever with old school D&D, you know how to do that already. What are the bonuses for an elf, Heathen Dog? If you remember.
+1 dex, -1 con.
There you go. Guess what you can do to this game?
You give humans +1 dex, -1 con, call them elves, and call it a day.
There you go. Exactly. So, but what we're going to be talking about is the main book. We're not going to be going through the referee's guide. Our goal, as always, is to talk about the game, what you can see in the game, a first look at the game, and hopefully entice you to like it or hate it, depending on how we cover it, I suppose. So let's F11 that thing, make it just a touch bigger. So there we go. New art. I do like the fact that the game ripped off its long title. It used to be Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. And because I'm guessing he did this because he owns a trademark, but if you look at the back title, there it is. Or the back cover, sorry. He's got the title there. But, people are going to argue. Heathen Dog. I'm wondering if you're going to argue about this.
Okay.
A book that does character creation before world building, good or bad? Or do you not care? Okay.
Bad.
See, I don't care.
I know. But I always find for the player, it's best to understand the world first so you can understand how to make a viable character that fits in the setting.
Charlotte Williams, yes. There's land management, there's naval combat, there's siege warfare. It's all in the referee's guide, yes. So let us discuss what Hyperborea is. Sword and sorcery and weird science fantasy. You guys do remember that in old D&D, probably before 2nd edition, because I know most 2nd edition people didn't like it, there were ray guns in Dungeons and Dragons.
It was very Thundar.
Yeah, I think that's a good...
Well, not very Thundar, kind of Thundar.
I get what you're saying, yeah. Table of contents. Man, right, introduction, character generation, statistics, classes, background. We're going to, in the introduction, we're actually going to cover both of these because they're both really short, as you can tell. Statistics, well, maybe we'll do these together. I don't care. Class is going to be a long one. As you can see, it's a lot of pages. Then we'll hit background equipment. We're just going to follow this right in order. Combat is last. Now, for people like Heathen Dog who want the background, I guess you'd call it, the combat rules first, I get it. I get it. Know the rules so I know how to make a character. The way I see this book, though, is just, it flows. You can almost do it page by page in order. All right, I'm opening up the book. Okay, let me make a character. Let me get the statistics for the character. Okay, let me pick my class. Let's look at the background. Let's grab some equipment. Am I a sorcerer? How do I handle adventuring? These are rules. How do I handle adventure and equipment's up there? And then finally, how do I handle combat? Boom, I'm ready to play. My character's done and I'm ready to play. So, 6 of one, half a dozen the other for me. Like I said, I don't care what order's in as long as it's together. And let's look at some of the art. That's just the cover art again. Okay, so talks about Hyperborea. I'm not going to read what a role-playing game is, but we are going to say, hey, well, let's set the tone here for what Hyperborea is. I'll zoom in on that because I don't know how well people on smaller monitors can see it. So Hyperborea is a role-playing game of swords, sorcery, and weird science fantasy. It is played with paper, pencil, dice, and imagination. Notice none of that said with laptops and VTTs. Nice. Participants include a referee and one or more players. The referee prepares and presents the adventure material, circumstances, challenges, quests, mysteries, etc., and the players create player characters, including fighters, magicians, clerics, and thieves. And of course, under those are the 4 core classes. Under those, there, I think, was it 8 to 10 other subclasses?
20, I think.
20 each? No, I thought it was like 8 to 10.
No. Okay. Between 4 and 6 of all of the 4 main classes, there are 4 and 6 subclasses each.
Okay. Is that what it is? All right.
Yeah. The
heroes of a Hyperborea game delve dungeons filled with horrifying monsters, lethal traps, and bewildering puzzles. Nobody likes puzzles. They explore savage wilderness frontiers and dangerous borderlands. They probe ancient ruins and investigate cursed tombs. They match steel against sorcery and sorcery against steel. You could also do, for the pedantic out there, steel against steel and sorcery against sorcery. Just to be clear. And they plunder for gold, gems, and magical treasure.
Sure, gotta get paid.
Yeah. Hyperborea is a flat Earth realm hemmed by the mystical Boreas, northern wind. By the way, or Northwind, sorry. That is the name of the company that Jeffrey Talanian, I'm sure he owns it. I should probably not say things that I don't know, but Northwind Adventures is the name of the company that makes this. I'm sure he owns it. And under the scarlet light of a bloated, dying sun, its rolling seas spill eternal over the world's rim. So when I showed you that hex map, yeah, the sea just goes off into space. How is it replenished? I don't
know. It's magic.
Yeah, who cares, right?
How is their atmosphere? Also magic.
Again, how could the world explode? Dude, it doesn't matter. It did. That is the background.
Yes, that's the impossible thing made possible for the background of this story. You gotta let it go.
It's just not realistic.
You're right. And this is why it's a game and not real. Okay, move on.
This world is in a perpetual state of decay and is populated by disharmonious men and women, hostile monsters, and weird alien beings.
I'd be pissed too. Okay.
Right. The setting is adaptable and can be used independently or in conjunction with other milieu, i.e. D&D, published or homebrewed. Indeed, Hyperborea might be just beyond the north wind of any campaign setting. Hell, this could be Ravenloft.
Yep.
I walked.
And you know what? You make it. It's pretty dark, Make it a little bit darker. It's easy, Ravenloft. Easy.
All right. Okay. Hopefully you know what a role-playing game is. The referee is the game master.
Sure.
All right. So what is the role of the referee? The referee presents the adventure scenario, including any pertinent background information, intelligence, and rumors that may be learnt. I love that, learnt. By the player characters. The game progresses as a sort of dialogue betwixt the referee and the players. You know what? I was kind of concerned that with this new edition, he was going to get rid of words like betwixt, vexed, and treble. It's good to see he hasn't done that. Because to be fair, whether you like it or not, it does add a sense of flavor to the setting. The referee describes the places explored: an ancient tower, a ruined city, a dungeon complex, or perhaps a hoary wilderness. Also encountered are humans, humanoids, and monsters, friendly and hostile alike. I don't think they're monsters if they're friendly. I might be wrong.
That's fair.
So, what is the role of the players? The players react to the referee's descriptions by explaining how their characters, individually or as a team, respond to each development. Character reactions may involve combat, ability use, diplomacy, and problem-solving, trickery, and or evasion. The referee judges the result of all such activities by using a combination of the rules and no small amount of logic, reason, and fairness. Collaboration and creativity in the face of adversity are hallmarks of an enjoyable role-playing game experience. Notice it never once said, telling a story. Playing a game, folks. Okay, so what is sword and sorcery and weird science? Although its name was not coined until 1961 by Fritz Leiber, sword and sorcery is a type of fantasy that, as many would agree, was created by Robert E. Howard when he wrote The Shadow Kingdom. So, interesting, Robert E. Howard. What game did we just cover up until last week? Conan 2D20. So we're going from one Robert E. Howard inspired game to another Robert E. Howard inspired game. So published by, I don't care who's published by. Kull, with a single mighty leap, hurled himself into the room. What's a two-spun? I don't know what that is. Is that a word?
I suppose.
Okay. Two-spun. But the blinding trigger speed of the attack gave him no chance for defense or counterattack. Sword steel flashed in the dim light and grated on bone as two is the name. As two toppled backward, Kull's sword standing out between his shoulders. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You get the idea. It's action-oriented. And I'm not going to read the rest of that. There is a part in here I want to say. So what exactly is sword and sorcery fiction? And what makes it different from epic or high fantasy? Now, I tend to be on the epic or high fantasy side. I like low magic, high fantasy, if that makes sense. That's just my normal way of liking things. So what makes this different from that? In epic fantasy, the protagonists are typically humans and demi-humans, dwarves, hobbits, elves, etc., who struggle against some dire threat and seek to rid the world of a great evil. Yep, that's generally how I like to run my games. This style of storytelling is epitomized by the fantastic works of J.R.R. Tolkien. Epic fantasies like Tolkien's Lord of the Rings often span multiple novels with plenty of character building, subplots, and side adventures. That is my perfect game. Absolutely, 100%. That is my perfect game. In contrast, most sword and sorcery stories are shorter and more personal, featuring a single protagonist who may be of dubious character. The objectives of a sword and sorcery protagonist are often materialistic or individually motivated. I actually don't have a problem with that, because I'll let the world just go on around them. You don't want to stop the evil that's taken over. Okay, that's cool. It's gonna happen. For example, one might seek a valuable relic from ancient catacombs, take vengeance on a blood-feud enemy of old, or perhaps fall into misadventure on account of drunkenness or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's why I love Forbidden Lands so much. It's got the same feel. Many sword and sorcery tales are self-contained one-shots, whilst others are episodic, loosely strung together and not necessarily in chronological order. However, longer-form sword and sorcery tales do exist. Hello, aren't you cute? Look at that.
That's something.
So, Howard's Hour of the Dragon was a serialized Conan novel, and Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer series, written by James Silke, I hope that's how I pronounce it, spanned 4 novels. Epic fantasy worlds tend to be more magical, with schools of wizardry, magical societies, and renowned practitioners of magic who are both feared and admired. In many instances, magic and nature are interwoven, part of the same fabric, if you would. And this is kind of the part where high fantasy does lose me a little bit. I like magic to be more causal. Like you do something, it's got or consequential. There's a consequence to it. I don't like.
Then you'll like. Damn it, I can't remember the name of the series. It's a 3-book series, but the way they did magic was there was a wizard and he learned all of the spells, incantations, rituals, all that stuff. But to access magic, you have to have someone bonded to you, and you are taking their life force every time you use magic.
Okay, that might be a little excessive, but I like it
Well,
conceptually.
no. They get it back. I mean, you know, it's kind of like a meter that goes down. You go down all the way, that person dies. But if you don't kill them, they'll recover over time. But it stops you from using magic willy-nilly. And there is a genuine consequence to using magic. Because if you kill them, the wizard can only bond to one other person in their entire life. If that person dies, you're not a wizard anymore. You have all the knowledge, but you couldn't even light a candle.
Okay. I mean, I have to think about that. It's definitely interesting, and I mean that not in the Minnesota way. I mean, in real, that is an interesting concept. That might be a bit a bit dark even for me, but where are we? In contrast, the magic of sword and sorcery tales is typically dangerous and/or forbidden, and it is often harnessed by madmen. So what would you call somebody like me who likes high fantasy tropes but likes low fantasy settings? Is there a term for that? Certainly, Howard's Conan faced several unhinged sorcerers, but the concept of sorcery causing physical and mental corruption to its practitioners is not universally true. Karl Edward Wagner's Cain, Michael Moorcock's Elric, and Fritz Leiber's Grey Mouser are all practitioners of sorcery, and they are neither disfigured nor driven to insanity from it. I don't know. I think Elric might be close. 2, Jack Vance, Vac Jance, that's his name now, presents several sorcerers in the dying earth, and their varying temperaments and predilections. And in Clark Ashton Smith's Hyperborea tales, Ibon, although a sorcerer of ill repute, is measured and astute. So, that's the idea behind so far, unless they're going to get... I wanted to hear more about the science fantasy part. Epic fantasy, Lovecraft, a weird... It's not a recognized genre or subgenre of fiction. Okay. One more popular component of sword and sorcery is the word... Here we go. This is what I want to see. Among the more popular components of sword and sorcery fiction is the weird. Howard incorporated it into his works, as does Leiber. Strange, eldritch gods, and deific otherworldly beings whose objectives are irrespective of mankind's position in the world. Oh, okay, so Palladium.
And Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Those gods don't care about you. They got their own thing going. You're just in the way, or you are just not even seen.
Yeah. Magic. Where am I? Here we go. Many books and treatises have been written on the origins of the weird tale, and although we can trace its roots to authors such as Algernon Blackwood, Lord Dunsany, there we go, Arthur Machen, and Edgar Allan Poe, most would agree that it was H.P. Lovecraft who crystallized its most mind-numbing form, cosmic horror. This subgenre of horror fiction is known for its doctrine of futility, in which mankind is not only fundamentally insignificant, but powerless to change anything about the crushing horrors of the illimitable universe. This outlook is exemplified in the opening paragraph of the Call of Cthulhu. And if Heathen Dog ever runs that game or covers that game, he can read it there. See, I'm going to skip it. You don't even get to read it here.
Man, you're mean.
I know. So, all right, let's, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's it for that part. So, how to use this book? Obviously, it's going to tell us what it's about. Chapter 1 introduction. We already talked about that. Character generation is very quick. Statistics we'll talk about in the second video. Then we have classes. The backgrounds, which is your character's race, physique, alignment, basically all the other stuff for the character, right? Then we'll have equipment. And then sorcery. Oh, yeah. Adventuring party is discussed in this chapter. You can learn about hirelings and henchmen, because obviously this is an old school type game. hirelings and henchmen are going to be important. Now, that's another thing I like about epic fantasy over sword and sorcery fantasy is I don't like dealing with henchmen and hirelings. I know that's anathema to a lot of grognards, but I don't. I want the player characters to handle most of it, and henchmen and hirelings are more like, hey, take this crap back to town so I don't have to sell it type stuff. What are your thoughts on henchmen and hirelings?
Well, if you're going into a dungeon and you know it's a big dungeon or you suspect it's a big dungeon, you get henchmen and hirelings to camp out in front of the entrance. Number one, to make sure no one's coming in behind you. And number two, that you have a place to fall back to, that not only you have backup, but you have provisions and healing and all that stuff. I like the idea of that. And of course, if you're going a long overland travel, you need henchmen and hirelings to take your stuff because,
sure. But they're doing stuff that's just it's not really talked about much. Okay.
Yeah. It's behind the scenes stuff, but henchmen and hirelings are important for that. The behind the scenes stuff. Now, if you have your henchmen and hirelings go, frontline fighting, unless they're actual warriors that you paid, then the people who survive are going to tell tales of you being a dick, and no one's going to take your hire again. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I just don't even like to think about it because players always find a way of rationalizing behavior and so forth. So I'm like, no, the story, the adventure is about what you guys do. If you want to have a henchman or hireling to hold torches, extra ammo, something like that, I have no problem with it. Like you said, outside, guard the horses so the DM isn't a dick and take away all the. I get all of that, but the action adventure type stuff, that's up to you. But different strokes, different folks, right? Chapter 9 is combat, and that's going to be the last chapter that we cover. That'll be the last week of April, and the appendix. Now, dice. We should know what the dice are. There's a little picture of them right there. Does that have, it says a 4, where's it? No 6. Yep, no 6-sided die.
No.
8.
4, 8, 10, 12, 20.
Yep, no 6. So all the weird ones except for, the D6. They use a standard dice. It's basically, again, this is a D&D clone. So, and a D6 is available. There you go. Range of 1 to 2, roll a D6 on a 1 to 3. This is just telling for people who are new to the game. Sometimes we don't need all of this. Yeah, you do. You might know how to do it, but somebody new to the game doesn't.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you should do if you're a good book, and this book is fantastic for it, is encourage a new player to play the game. Make the rules simple to understand, not confusing, and you go in with the 80% solution, you'll make a couple of mistakes, you'll fix them later. All good. All right, character generation. Now, why am I talking about character generation in the introduction? Because this is just an overview. The next one where we get into statistics, then we'll spend more time on it. So, Hyperborea Primer. What do you need to know to play Hyperborea? Well, let's find out. Regardless of your character's class, race, alignment, religion, and secondary skills, there are several facets of life that are generally known to most characters of Hyperborea. As proved, no, it says proved, not evidence, not guessed, proved by science and sorcery, Hyperborea is a flat, hexagonal-shaped world. The sun is a red giant that skirts along the horizon, never rising to a zenith. I mean, if it's as big as it is going to be, doesn't matter how high it rises, you're never going to see the bottom of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look up at the size of a red giant. 2 ellipsoid moons revolve around Hyperborea, one large, the other small. Saturn is immense in the sky, is oft visible during diurnal, I don't know why I can never say that word, I should be able to, but diurnal and nocturnal hours. A week is 7 days, a month is 28 days, a year is 13 months, and a cycle is 13 years. So a little tweak from normal there, but easily understandable. Simple math too, right? Don't have to worry about 365 days, blah, blah, blah. The 13-year cycle includes a year of perpetual light and a year of perpetual darkness. So you're living a year-long Alaska.
Well, there's one in every 13 years, there's 1 year of darkness, 1 year of light, and the rest of it is normal day and night cycle.
It's somewhat normal. If you remember, second edition had that, how many pages of charts depending on which day it was, and it told you when the sun rose and the sun. I hope.
Yeah, you don't really have to get that in depth. You can let that one go. Okay, let's just keep this part simple.
The Hyperborean sea spills off the rim of the world into the infinite black gulf, so you can fall off the edge of the earth. The north wind wheels around the realm beyond the rim of the world. Great obelisks rise from the 6 corners of the realm. Mount, I am not even going to try to pronounce that, is Hyperborea's north pole axis and largest mountain. Chromarium, a cosmopolitan metropolis, is the largest city of the realm.
Okay.
The Zathaqua, is that how you pronounce that? Somebody's going to, what's that?
Not a clue.
Zathaqua? Orthodoxy is the most prevalent religion in the realm. Why can't you have a religion people can pronounce?
Yeah. The religion of Steve. Just
right, there you go. I'm going to be
Steve. Fine.
I'm a Stevite now. You've already convinced me. I don't even care what you believe. Oh, stabbing kids and raping animals. I'm in. I can at least pronounce it.
The business card's easy. I'm in.
Right. The indigenous Hyperborean race once ruled Hyperborea with savage cruelty. A plague called the Green Death nearly obliterated mankind 1,000 years ago. So nobody remembers.
Okay, see, you know what? After the world was broken apart and you're not floating around Saturn, you've already dodged the biggest bullet in the world. Everything else is just gravy. Like whatever.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Oh, plague. Okay.
Yeah, and you're on borrowed time after that. Everything else is like just the cherry on top. You should be happy you're alive at all.
And yeah, I'm not going to read the rest of that, but that gives you an idea of what the world is about. And I like this. I don't remember this. May have been, but I don't remember this being in second edition. I thought we found out most of this at the end of the book. So I'm kind of glad this is here, just to let anybody just starting off like, okay, now I know what I'm getting into. Mm-hmm. Creation steps. We'll be rolling up the character. We'll go through those steps here. You generate your attributes. You choose a class. Again, this has already been said once before. We don't have to say it again. And leveling up. The realm of Hyperborea is a deadly place, and your character will face many life-threatening challenges. Through small and great deeds of adventure and daring do, if your character is fortunate enough to survive, he or she will gain experience points, and through experience points, you gain levels. It's like a D&D game. Now, you're like, I'm brand new to all this stuff. Can you explain it to me? Probably when we get to that point. And you have a checklist, and certain things happen at certain levels. So you'll always want to check for your additional hit points, just your saving throws. See if your fighting ability goes up. For us old school people, it's the combat matrix or THACO. It's really simple because it's at the bottom of your character sheet. You don't even have to think. At 4th, 8th, 12th levels, fighters and fighter subclasses are eligible for new weapon masteries. All right. Check the class description for any new special abilities. We'll get to that next week. Add class description and determine if you get new spells. And I think that's it. That's it for the introduction. Let's pop up any chat that we've got here so we can get through that quickly, and then we'll get to talking about statistics in the game. I cannot read that. It's too small on the screen, so you have to read those.
Okay. Hi, guys. Just found you this week. I binged Beyond the Supernatural. After 20 years of playing RPGs, I am tired of being a GM. That's fair. Thank you so much. A true fan now. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you very much, El de Luna.
That's great. I'm glad you watched it. And there's more Palladium to come after I talk about statistics.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Beyond the Supernatural, it reminds me, we still have the poll. If you watch the video from last week, the conversion book video, Heathenog is still waiting for people to put out there what
they want converted. Yes, from any Palladium system to Rifts, the system that gets the most votes, one of those characters is going to be converted to Rifts. Okay, and it's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to convert a vagabond or whatever, or a simple thief to Rifts. Nothing changes. Haha, that was easy. No, I'm not going to do that to you. Don't worry about it. And Ravensar says, sadly, I have to agree with Heathen Dog, and you know how I hate agreeing with him most of the time. I don't know what we were talking about then, but I just want to know that, yeah, agreeing with me is a good idea.
There we go.
All right, Marhawkman says, a little darker. Hype has mega plagues. Oh, this is if you want it to be Ravenloft, it'll get a little darker. Hyperborea has mega plagues that can wipe out entire civilizations and create corpses that can be turned into an undead army by those prepared to avoid the plague. That's a good start.
Well, that's Ravenloft.
Yeah, that's Ravenloft right there, baby. That's beautiful then. Then it's ready for Ravenloft.
You know what it also is?
What?
Yeah, plug here. Whitechester by James Grimm Desborough.
That's right.
So check out Whitechester. Whitechester is compatible with this game that we're talking about right now, Hyperborea.
Yep.
All right, is that it?
Oh, no, one more.
Okay.
Charlotte Williams says, I'm glad it has things like this primer. Already I'm envisioning things like a cult that worships the great obelisks and other things. Yes, the background before character creation, they did a little mini background for this, but it lets you think of character ideas that fit into the premise of the game, rather than you going into your head starting a character that doesn't fit in the game when you come to the background later on in the book. You're like, oh, damn it, I made a paladin. That doesn't work in this game. I didn't know until now. So yes, this primer, really, really cool. I like it as well.
Yeah, and notice it's not like 50 pages to try to
No.
ham fist everything into you.
No.
It's just enough to get let you know what you need to know. So yeah, absolutely. Hyperborea, look, I gotta admit, I come in this a little biased because I loved second edition. I know some people like OSE, other people like Castles and Crusades. Great games, don't get me wrong. But this is my OSR game of choice. I love the way the books are written and put together and presented. I loved it last time, and so far, I'm loving it this time. But I know Heathen Dog's on a little bit of a time schedule, so if there's nothing else to talk about here, I'd like to get into statistics.
Go for it.